Ho, ho, holy guacamole. Welcome to another News Coolum video and another, well, Boltmas video, day 2 of Boltmas present. These trees, you've probably seen them in some of my videos. A lot of these are former Christmas trees, and a little history about my family. One of the nicest things my father ever did was he actually made us wait to get a Christmas tree until after my birthday. So very merry on birthday to me. And in that family tradition, I think this day of Boltmas, I'm going to try to also pick up a Christmas tree. So a long time ago, what we started doing is actually buying living Christmas trees. Very different from a live Christmas tree, which is actually a dead Christmas tree that's been chopped down, formerly living. These are actually truly living Christmas trees that we're buying and planting after Christmas. So hopefully along this route, I'll be able to stop and buy a Christmas tree that I'll be able to hopefully decorate a little bit. Usually they're very small. This one was shorter than my knee when we planted it. And as you can see, it's growing. So, there's some things we have to watch out for seasonally and whatnot. But yeah, it's just really nice to be able to have a tree for Christmas and then plant it afterwards and then continue to see it grow year after year after year. So that's one of the things that we're going to do today. And for this one, maybe I mentioned it in the last Boltmas video, I got a call from the veterinarian that they're able to start taking in some strays to have them spayed. So I'm trying to trap some of the females that are left so that they can get fixed and no more feral kitty colony. And so I need to be aware of that because I have to sort of fit in the travel that I'm doing in these Boltmas videos with the schedule that the veterinarians have, and trapping those feral female cats is not necessarily easy, even though I'm the one who brings them food. So I've got to make sure that we can get back in time, that I can check a trap, make sure it's occupied by the right cat, and if not, get it set up again before, and then that way I can be ready to go in tomorrow to get one or hopefully two of those feral female cats fixed. And then the other thing is too, because I've been trying to charge primarily on solar at home, I'm not necessarily going to be able to do this trip without using another public charger. We didn't generate a whole lot of electricity the last couple of days because it's been overcast, but I currently have my Bolt EV plugged into the Grow Watt that I featured in another video. And now that the sun is finally out, it is actually behaving the way that I expected it to, which is plugging in a level 2 12 amp. It's drawing roughly the amount of power that's being fed into the battery. So as long as the sun is out and it's full sun exposure, it's going to charge without draining the battery at all. And then that gives you a really relaxed buffer or window that you can be charging from. Basically, you can plug in and literally just charge for 2 to 3 to 4 hours. But it is level 2, so it's just not adding that much range. This is, again, going to be one of the shorter trips for these Boltmas videos, but I don't want to set it up too much. I just want to be clear that I'm actually not just going to be visiting this charging site, and I should say revisiting this charging site, which I have been to in the past. I'm going to be checking some of the other charging infrastructure along the way and possibly using some of it because I'll need to. And again, I have to head down and take the cats to get fixed hopefully tomorrow, so I can't just show up with a dead battery at home like I would normally. So without further ado, I hope you're ready for day 2 of Boltmas present. Okay, so we're getting out a little bit later than I wanted to. I basically charged up on solar the whole time leading up to leaving, which really only added like 5% to the battery. So again, we're not going to be able to make it the 100 or so miles to this charging location without stopping to charge first. So I'm gonna do that really quick. Our arrival time right now is, looking at 3 p.m. or so that we're going to arrive, which is a little bit early for the little boys' dinner. But if I stop and charge for about 20 to 30 minutes, that means we will be arriving right about the time that he should be eating. So it'll kind of work out that I can make a meal stop for the little guy, as well as check out the charging site. And then we can always look for potential Christmas trees or whatever on the return without running into some wild hogs. Come on, guys. Geez Louise. And right now we're also going to be heading up through the clouds here, so this is gonna be not so great, but it's not necessarily clear whether these are also going to persist down into the valley. They say that the top of the fog deck is the thickest, so a lot of times it is what piles up on these foothills, and you're gonna have sometimes near zero visibility. I remember times heading down this hill when during the foggy periods, where we were literally having to go 5 miles an hour because the only thing we could see is the line looking out the window of the car. So this is nothing by comparison. This is this is just pretty good visibility. If we can get our act together, this will actually all be a reservoir in the next few years. So putting in a large dam here in sights, and this will be one of the largest reservoirs in the state of California. This whole section we're driving through in 10 years could easily just be under 100 feet of water. And actually we're coming up to where they're probably going to be building. The dam will be located somewhere in this area, this choke point in the valley, and then that will create the dam. This used to be an old rail line, stagecoach line. You can still see some of the construction along the creek bed where boats and barges, because there were some really productive quarries here, and in fact a number of buildings in San Francisco were made of rock out of this quarry, and they they double dipped, because after the San Francisco earthquake they realized that most of the buildings that survived the earthquake were built with rocks from this quarry. So when they rebuilt after the 1906 earthquake, they rebuilt a lot more buildings with rocks from this quarry. So we also get to dodge some of these dirt clods on the road, taking some of these farming roads where they're getting the equipment back out of the fields. Lots of dirt clods. It's a Northern California speed bump. Heading into Williams, so we're bypassing a little bit of the route that they wanted us to take. We're going to end up hopping up here on Highway 20, I think, to return. So I'm going to go to the electric Era charger here in Williams. So this is not a not a spoiler, but I want to first kind of check out the EV Go chargers, because I haven't had a chance to check them recently, and I wanted to see if they're actually even still functioning, if they're working the way they're supposed to be, or if they were removed completely, which Yeah, sadly, that looks to be the case. So I was hoping that when EVgo came here, they were going to do something like their Renew, but I think this is confirmation here as we kind of drive around in a circle, right where the guy is. They're offloading. That's where the chargers used to be. So it looks like they've just been removed completely. You can still kind of see where some of the signage used to be. So they just looks like they abandoned this location completely. So when we see those EVgo pips get pulled off the map, then yeah, a lot of times it means the chargers are just removed completely. You can still see the little blue pillars there. So, but luckily for us as EV owners, we do have more options. So it looks like that Dutch Brothers was completed. So this Electric Era site over here now has one more nearby amenity. So we took a little bit of extra time to confirm that the EVgo site has been removed completely, but now we can just kind of head over here. All right, and as you can see, I was not going to have anywhere near enough juice to make it, so let's just go ahead and plug in. And yeah, I mean, it's just swiping a card as normal, and they're saying that it should begin in 20. So they have a timer that's actually showing how quickly the handshake and the startup occurs. And like I said, these Signet chargers, and it looks like it started earlier than they predicted, but still probably, I would say, plus or minus faster than a lot of the chargers, but still slower than I had mentioned. The Charge Point Express Plus is usually around 10 to 15 seconds. The superchargers can be as fast as like 8 to 10 seconds. But I think that's mostly with Teslas. And then this one is somewhere in the middle, a little, like I said, a little bit better than the Deltas from EVgo, a little bit better than the Signet and BTC power from Electrify America, and a little bit faster than the Alpitronics, I would say, even the HYC 400s. So, but again, this is just a great site. As you can see, someone was here using it when we arrived. Fairly busy. Speaking of which, Dutch Brothers, fairly busy. But just an overall good site. And like I said, I'm just going to charge up here because I need to go about 70 miles. And it's up in elevation. We've got a decent breeze. So I'll probably get out of the wind in order to record any other voice. But yeah, like I said, this station has, just it's nice to have a very reliable, robust charging station, fairly local. Like I said, I could make it home from here with no more than 20% battery in most conditions. So just having this as an option it's just huge. So thank you, Electric Era, as always, a great job. So 2, 4, 6, 8 stalls, as minimum that a lot of people say that they want. So, and actually, I don't know if I've even looked at these while I'm here. Yeah, this is their NACS J3400 plug. It's a little bit more robust, I would say, than a lot of the ones that we've seen, but you know, it's capable of charging a NACS-based EV fairly quickly. So, and then again, like, let's see, left port. So this one is both CCS. I think this one is CCS, and I don't know if they did one that's NACS. So right now it looks like two of the NACS ports, and the other 6 are CCS1. So, I mean, at this point, right, if you have a CCS1 or a NACS vehicle, it doesn't really matter. They're all cross compatible. It's just a matter of having your own adapter. But these sites that do provide both standards just make it easier. And I mean, I would say at this point we're getting very quickly to the point that I think Electric Era could be justified in even doing a 50-50 split. I do like that it's not NACS, CCS1, right? I do like the fact that they've split them up. You know, you have NACS on one side, CCS1 on the other. And when I say they could go 50-50, it's the same thing, is put a NACS on one and a CCS1 on one, right? And so I like the idea of splitting the standard up by dispenser rather than what a lot of the charging providers like Iona is doing, where this will be all NACS, this will be all CCS1, this will be all NACS, this will be all CCS1. I don't like that as much. I like to see the standards split based on dispenser, and then that way this dispenser is usable by either vehicle, and the same for all of the dispensers. All right, well, they added extra time, possibly due to traffic would be my guess. I decided I just wanted to stay basically for 30 minutes. I wanted to hit 50% because 50% should be more than enough to do about 70 miles with a elevation increase. So just basically, and we were charging slower too. We should have, a 30-minute charge should have gotten us closer to probably 55%. But again, because I haven't been plugging in consistently at home, my battery temperature is probably low. We're just gonna, and nobody's actually come since I've been here. I was just checking some emails and, you know, posting some crap online. So we've added, yeah, I do like this screen. And I was gonna make a comment too. These, you know, I think a lot of people will mention pricing. 55 cents per kilowatt hour in California is pretty standard, right? We drove by a Tesla supercharger. It's over there at the Gonzales. And I'm pretty sure for non-members, that's like 55 or 60 cents per kilowatt hour. So this is a pretty standard price for Northern California. Not cheap, but not you know, expensive either. And yeah, I think this should be good enough. We have a bit of a breeze. It's a bit cool, but I think this is going to be good enough to go. I would say one of the one criticism I would say of Electric Era is I feel like they could use slightly lighter cables. And then, yeah, I feel like they could use slightly lighter cables, though they don't have a negative impact on this charging port, which is finicky. So, but still, it would be nice to get them slightly higher power and slightly lighter cables. So as far as I know, these are just air-cooled cables that Electric Era are using, that they're using here. And so if they went with a liquid cooled cable, I don't think it needs to be anything as fancy as like Mercedes was using the oil cooled cables. But I do think that they could benefit both from having lighter cables and for the fact that those cables would be higher power capable, right? Because for the Bolt EV, it doesn't really matter too much. But these Electric Era chargers, I would say, given where they've chosen to install them, are a little bit slow. Because Electric Era has chosen to install them at these convenience store locations, these gas stations. These are really stops where people want to be able to get in and out in 15 minutes or less. And if you have an EGMP car or a Porsche Taycan, or we can look at some of these faster charging EVs that are coming up on the market, if you have a car that's able to charge to 80% in 10 minutes, right? Well, you want to be able to charge to 80% in 10 minutes at one of those locations. And so doing that is going to require a 400, 500, 600 kilowatt charging station. So those 200 kilowatt chargers, they're fast enough for a road trip, but they're not as fast as they should be for a dedicated charger at a convenience store travel location, right? So I would love to see Electric Era boost their power a little bit. It sounds like they did for their site in Colorado. They did I believe it was a Love Nevy site, and so they met those requirements there. So I really would like to see Electric Era upgrade their stations if possible to all be that split power 400 kilowatt charger configuration, and it would just make them even more compelling than they already are. Right now they're really serving, in my opinion, they're primarily serving smaller efficient EVs that already travel pretty quick. So if you spend 5 minutes longer at a charging stop, it really doesn't make too much of a difference. So 20 minutes at a convenience store location twice in a 600-mile trip isn't going to be a big deal. But to kind of give them that value innovation that they need to separate them from their competitors, I think Electric Era needs to boost their power a little bit so that that they can provide that fastest possible charging speed for EVs that are going to be traveling. So and here we're just again hopping on Highway 20. So this is we were on Highway 20 for quite a bit of yesterday's the Boltmas day one trip. So now we're on Highway 20 going the other direction. Again, giving some hints, but I'm guessing TK might already know where I'm going. But I'm not sure who else will. Yeah, I swear I did not put in and out into the navigation computer. Yeah, I have no idea why they did this. But yeah, it shaved 2 minutes off of our estimated time of arrival, even though it seems like a really slow route. So I'm not sure. Yeah, so we literally drove around the block for reasons. Not sure what those reasons are, but I mean, I get it. It's a busy intersection here, but the other half of the businesses you'd be shopping at like the mall is literally right here. So if it was something due to like Christmas shopping traffic, I could totally see wanting to avoid this section too, but that's not what they did. So yeah, I don't know. I will say one thing that Maps is having a difficulty with is gauging distance. There have been a few of these intersections where it listed them as a quarter mile away, half mile away, and then all of a sudden I'm within, you know, a few hundred feet of the intersection, and it suddenly updates and goes from like a half mile to, you know, 350 feet turn. Yeah, no, that's there's still a little bit of lagginess on these maps. But I'll say this, I think at least the roads are nice over here, so you will not hear me complaining about that coming from a bouncy road neighborhood. Just a nice, pleasant drive. Palm trees, eucalyptus, and cattle. What a combination. And more dirt clod still, of course. This is definitely a Western flavor to it. Palm trees, eucalyptus, and cattle. Maybe we're heading to New Zealand. And then there's the oaks. Finally something native. We have some of these fun little curves now, so get to do a little bit more spirited driving than just straight line. We have 3.5 miles, it looks like, and we're gonna link back up to Highway 20, which we technically got off of. But this is definitely a sort of a scenic route through the hills here. We started up this hill, had 4 miles per kilowatt hour efficiency. We're already down to 3.8. So most of that is, I think, just elevation increase. It's not actually the sort of spirited driving of any sort. Seems like you might be seeing a theme in the types of roads that I like to drive. It's always nice to have a smaller, lighter, more nimble vehicle on these roads. It'll be interesting to drive the new Chevy Bolt, not limited to Universal Studio lots, right? Roads like this would be, you know, perfect to kind of test that new Bolt out on, just kind of see how it handles. You know, nothing crazy, just driving it on fun, scenic, curvaceous road. Curvaceous, bodacious road. Well, let's hope these chargers are working, because yeah, I just went orange, so we're down to a under 20% battery now. Yeah, so we just hit charge vehicle soon, the sort of auditory warning. So I think that's below 15%. So I think we're technically at 14% right now. We have a little less than 4 miles to go. So I guess we should see if it's over 10% when we plug in, then yeah, that audible warning, I think we can confirm that it does kick on right around 14%. All right. Have you guessed it yet? Have you guessed it yet? I guess we're just ambulance chasing now. Sorry, didn't realize that. It's a nice hospital visit here. Yeah, it's definitely a feeling of bobbing and weaving to get through here. I haven't driven here enough to be that familiar with the area, so definitely feels like it's more suited for locals. And we've got an icy 25 miles an hour. Nice little roundabout. Boop, boop. Looks like we're going to a granola eating co-op. Oh, they put solar panels? Jeez, how progressive. Let's sneak through here. Is it this? Sky Charger. Or is it these? What the deuce? Welcome to a News Coolum original, as in a News Coolum first, as in the first time I have ever used a Chempower charger. One of the first ones installed in the state, as I recall. And I immediately pulled into the wrong one because I can already see that this one here is a NAX connector, but this one here is not. I'm not seeing a payment option here. So unfortunately, it looks like a lot of these, all right, dynamic, it's currently 63 cents a kilowatt hour. Huh. So these readers are just down, they're not showing. Yeah, not. Oh, actually, this one is. So let's try to use this one. The other ones are marked for handicapped space. And we'll use the last one there. That's a CCS too. All right, so this one showed the reader working. So this was a tap card, and it's an $80 hold. And it's thinking, it's still struggling. And this is the first time I've had a chance to use one of these. So these are heavy cables, but the cable management does help. It just doesn't help that the thing is trying to pull away. So there's no indication here. So start. And again, I already paid, so I don't know. The instructions here are, so it said card read, okay, authorizing. So I feel like there's some, and then it's approved. So I feel like there's some instructions missing here on this because it wants you to plug in first. Yeah, and then 9%. So I think the audible starts at 10%. Like when you drop below 10%, that's when the audible charge now warning. All right, and then these are up to 320, 400 volt DC. So hopefully they can get some of the other payment readers working. Like I said, again, in California, this is required. I really want to avoid using the apps before. An $80 hold though is pretty significant. Like that might actually be the highest I've ever seen. And then 51 kilowatt, also the highest I've ever seen. No, but all joking aside, yeah, like I feel like maybe a little bit better instructions, and then make sure that these payment readers are working. You'll notice this is a very familiar symbol iconography, Sky Charger. They're the ones that Electric Era works with as well. So technically, the Electric Era chargers that I like to use are under the Sky Charger network. These are technically different, right? These are not Electric Era. These are Kempower, which, again, this is the first time I've ever used a Kempower unit, and these are the satellites with, I mean, they've got a lot of decent features. I was actually expecting these cables to be a little bit lighter. They do a decent job with their cable management. Like I said, you can, to pull another Steve from Plug and Play, you can pull these out fairly far, but like I said, this is also rotating, so just because you can pull it out this far, not quite to the end, doesn't mean that you'll be able to like plug it in one-handed, right? These are, and then already, oh, there's a lot of memory to this cable. So it just wants to rotate around in my hand. So it's a very heavy cable. So the cable management helps a little bit alleviate that, but it's still super heavy. And I actually, if this NAX cable is as heavy, it's a little bit lighter, but honestly, like the lack of that handle, the lack of the handle grip makes this even actually more difficult to use. At least one-handed, I think you're gonna find that people are gonna struggle to use it. Like I said, this is more ergonomic, right? Look, I mean, you can close your hand. I have reasonably large hands for someone of my stature, but easily put my hand all the way around, right? Whereas this is going to be more difficult for someone to manage given the weight of the cable. So their cable management does some to alleviate that, but not enough. And then, like I said, these payment, and then of course this is Cal EVIP, help to fund, but these pay-to terminals, I mean, they seem to work fine, but not all of them are working. And over here, again, like all of the units seem to be up. Kempower seems to be fairly reliable. And then, they just have, so these two are working at least. So at least in the case of the ADA compliant stalls, they're working. And then for these ones, the payment readers are down, but these are working. So they're going to be 2, 4, 6. Then there's another 2 over there by the charge point units that I will check out, the CPE 250s. I'll check those out in a second, but I have a hungry boy who's gonna want to eat. All right, well, Merry Boltmas. Yeah, so on this second day of Boltmas, we are visiting the Briar Patch Food Co-op, and for those of you who followed my channel, you'll probably remember this, or maybe you'll remember this from a long time ago. I think it was probably 4 or 5 years ago that I visited this location, and it was actually the Charge Point tritium V fills originally, and ChargePoint branded. So these new CPE 250s appear to be SkyCharger branded, and then also these ChemPower units are under SkyCharger. So this is a nice implementation. They basically, in addition to the two CPE 250s, they've added this 8-stall ChemPower satellite, so up to 320 kilowatt and 160 kilowatt per post, depending on whether it's 800 volt or 400 volt cars. So yeah, I mean, overall, it's just a nice stop. There's a grocery store here. A lot of people come here to grab food and eat. There's a walking path. It's a dog friendly walking path. So I will be taking the little boy for a jaunt once he finishes jaunting his food down. Looks like he's mostly finished. And then we're probably going to want to charge up here for a while. I would say the big concern that I have, though, is this is an 80 $80 hold. That is a massive hold for activating a charger like this using a credit card. It's expensive, right? 63 cents per kilowatt hour. Even by Northern California standards, it's on the expensive side. Not obscene, right? It's like 2 cents a kilowatt hour more expensive than the Pilot Flying J in Orland. Um, but it's still expensive. Even even at that price, though, I don't I just don't think it's even possible for the Bolt EV to pull $80 worth of energy out. I know there are some vehicles that can, but filling up the Bolt EV, $80 is like 2 batteries, not one. So, and I don't know how much longer we're going to be here. I need to use the bathroom myself. I'll take the little boy for a walk, probably grab something from the store. We are parked at the very far uh, charger, and so I'll be able to get a little bit of a film of the rest of the chargers too. But yeah, just overall, it's a nice site. Other than having to move because some of the payment readers weren't working, or weren't active, no other issues here. The hardware itself seems perfectly reliable. And then I would say the big thing is they just need better instructions on screen, because I attempted to pay first and the payment terminal just sat there thinking. And it wasn't until I plugged in that it was like, oh, okay, now you can authorize the payment, and now it will start charging. So they just need some basic instructions on screen, very clear. Plug in first, then activate your payment, which is the same order as the electric era under SkyCharger, but the difference is the electric era chargers clearly state up front you need to plug in first and then pay. So we're already up to, I was going to say only, but we're already up to 27% battery because it looks like the battery on the Bolt EV has warmed up finally. So it's not like we're going to be here that long. All right, well, we're already at 70%. It took a while to navigate the store. I got a little charcuterie board to go. The little guy not only had his snack, but relieved himself as well. So yeah, we're probably gonna, leave with about 80% battery, and at that point, I don't think I'm gonna stop anywhere else. I wanted to check out some of the chargers along the way, maybe, like I said, pick up a Christmas tree, but at this point, it's going to be dark by the time we get back. In fact, I'll go ahead and put it in the map just to make sure I know. But at this point, it's going to be dark by the time we get back. So, and I have a trap out, so I don't want to leave a cat out there, past dark. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, they're saying we're going to get back by about 7 o'clock, which is about the same time that we got back the first day of Boltmas, which again was already dark. So I'm going to have a little bit of a snack, leave when I'm done, and with the expectation that I'm not going to need to make another stop. Already our minimum estimated range matches the arrival at home. And worst case scenario, if I do get home with an empty battery, I can always take like the Volt down to the vet, right? So I've been plugging it in and charging it up on solar too, so that won't be an issue. But yeah, so I'm just gonna have a quick snack and then we're gonna head out. But overall, looks like ChargePoint is an option to pay to with the app over there at the CPE 250s. Looks like it's the same price, same time of use. The cheapest you're going to get here, it looks like, is about 55 cents per kilowatt hour, which again isn't bad for California. But like I said, this is the first time I've had a chance to use Kempower. They seem fairly decent. There are some pretty straightforward improvements that I'd like to see made. They do list the plug format on the top of the unit. That's kind of helpful if you know to look for it. And like I said, maybe just a little bit more clarity on the order of operations. It would be nice to see them, make the cables a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to manage. If I come to this site again, no more novelty, I'll probably just use the CPE 250 units. There's no reason for me in a Bolt EV to be using Kempower. But overall, just a very good site. Very, very straightforward, clean experience. So, all right, so that's not the most reassuring. So I like when chargers, right, don't let you disconnect someone else's charge. So, in theory, right, these Kempower units are good in that, when I pressed on the display on the charger to end session, it said identification required. And that's cool, right? That's kind of the same functionality we see from ChargePoint, where you basically have to swipe your RFID card again or whatever. Now, in theory, all that's required for that to work is you swipe with the same card that you used to activate the charger. It should be easy peasy, very simple. Shut down the charger immediately. Well, the terminal wasn't registering that functionality that I could tell. Now, it does look like it stopped accruing, right? But the issue is it doesn't look like the charger and the payment terminal are necessarily communicating. And what that means is it creates this weird situation where maybe you stopped charging, but the charger knows that you stopped charging, but the payment terminal doesn't, which, maybe you don't get charged anymore. Maybe they don't have an idle fee or anything like that, but maybe it affects or impacts the next person who wants to charge. So yeah, I could see overall just a problem with the way it's integrated. And it could just be that maybe, I have to imagine Kempower, as prominent as it is and how broadly used as it is in like Europe, um, they have to have worked out that functionality, right? They have to have that credit card functionality integrated. So for it to not work well this time, I'm a little bit concerned. And again, like I said, there's not really much point in the functionality if you can simply take the charging handle, press the release latch, and it ends the session. Right now, I get it, some EVs will lock their charging port, so that's not a possibility, right? Like, you, unless you're the EV owner, you'd have to go in and unlock the charging port or end the charging session from inside the EV, whereas the Bolt EV doesn't have a locking CCS charging port. So I can literally just press the latch release and it will shut down the charger. So the charger got the memo. The Kempower charger immediately stopped. It knew how to do that. It ended the session, presented me with the what I had been charged, what was left, but the Pater terminal itself didn't, right? And it wouldn't refresh and wouldn't read my card a second time to signal to the charger to end the session. So all of this is a little bit concerning the way their payment is integrated. So hopefully, like, these are all minor things, but they are things that I think SkyCharger, if they're going to continue using Kempower as one of their vendors, they want, I feel like they want to make sure that this functionality works perfectly, whereas, right, Electric Era, I think it works perfectly. It's super easy to understand. You know what's expected of you, how it's going to work, and it operates in a consistent and expected way. So I think SkyCharger just needs to make sure that these Kempower units are doing the same thing. You know, I'll make sure to check my billing. Like I said, an $80 hold on a credit card is pretty extreme, way higher than I would expect normally. So hopefully they reduce that as well, because really, if you're going to do an $80 hold, you have to have 110% reliability, because if someone has a failed activation, then tries again and has another failed activation, you're starting to edge in on holding a car payment, especially if they're making multiple charging sessions along a trip. Now you're looking at $80 this stop, $80 the next stop. Yeah, it's an extremely high amount to be holding for a credit card charge. So hopefully they can address that. But overall, Briar Patch, just an amazing stop. Just really really a lot to do there, a lot of facilities. You know, like most of these higher end grocery store food co-ops, they have prepared food, they have a dog park, they have a picnic area, you know, they have a place to walk around. So there's a lot to like for this charging stop, even though it's a bit out of the way. But 10 DC charging stalls, right, up to 320 kilowatts of power. It looked like the NACS was listed as only 280, which might be like a limitation of like voltage or something of that nature. But the CCS were up to 320 kilowatt. So yeah, overall, just a lot to like about the site. You know, 10 charging bays, massive solar array. Yeah, I mean, up in the hills of California, like I said, this is a route that you'll traverse a lot going, you know, east-west in California. So maybe not on a major interstate, or a major travel corridor, but it is still a corridor where a lot of people do travel. So great job, SkyCharger, great implementation. Glad to see the ChemPower chargers working. Like I said, lots of little feedback, but overall, I would call this a Boltmas success. Yeah, so we're starting to see some of those clouds and fog deck maybe form up again, just as we head down the hill. So we're increasing our efficiency coming down on Highway 20, but still haven't seen the results of it on the energy efficiency display. Yeah, so technically this is a different route than what we took up. So, right, we took the back way up into Grass Valley, and then this is the alternate route that they did show directions for, but I think they bypassed it on the maps because there was maybe more traffic heading up Highway 20. So now that we're heading back down again, though, I think it's just a straightforward Highway 20 straight through. And also, we ended up, Google Maps is kind of smart. You're smart. So it will route shortcuts. And so we ended up getting routed a shortcut both through the town of Colusa and the town of Yuba City, and a shortcut up into Grass Valley. And it looks like for the return, it's just a very straightforward route back. So no shortcuts or anything of that nature, just straight highway all the way back through. And my guess is it's also going to just route us the normal way through Yuba City and Colusa as well. And that's fine. Even if it doesn't, I'll probably drive that way. So I think I might just ignore the map guidance moving forward and just basically drive back like I was going to anyway. And I don't know how well it's going to come out on camera. The low light is always a little bit tough to see, but it's actually a pretty nice sunset. It's just fairly low light and a lot of clouds blocking it out. So, and even though I'm not going to be making like an extra stop or whatever in order to save time, I'm also not really rushing. So some of these people are wanting to drive by, so I'm just kind of letting them. I'm not really going that much faster than the cars in front of me, and this guy is barely able to pass me right now, and we're barely, we're not even doing 55 allegedly. So they're just, they're barely going faster than me, but I'm fine with letting them go by, because I'm not in a rush, and this is just a nice relaxed trip back. And okay, now maybe, well, we're already losing the colors of the sunset, but it's at least a little bit more visibility now. Again, not the, well, okay, maybe they are the Christmas lights we wanted to see. I'm not sure that that's an appropriate use of sirens and lights, but okay. Small town America. So just looping you in here on, is probably, I don't know, half mile in, but yeah, this is kind of what I'm talking about with the sort of pea soup fog that you can expect. This still isn't that bad, but it's getting close, right? We probably have, as long as you don't have your high beams on, we have at least probably 30 to 40 feet of visibility. I would say maybe 20 to 30 feet that you can clearly see. The big issue here, though, is there are rocks. So if you're this limited in visibility, right, you have to be able to stop in time to avoid a rock that could completely damage your vehicle. But yeah, so this is one of those reasons, like I said, I kind of limit my driving to certain times, and when I know that I can kind of avoid some of the fog and the low lying clouds. So now we should be getting out of it now, and I can turn my high beams back on, and it's just a lot thinner here than it is up on the mountains. So yeah, just one of the things that you have to work through when you're traveling in Northern California is avoiding some of the fog. And like I said, there's other obstacles on this road that make fog even more dangerous. So all right, well, all's well that ends well. Another Boltmas day in the books. Boltmas day 2. Not quite 7 o'clock, so we made good time. We got back a little bit earlier than the clock said we would. And we got plenty of battery, right? I mean, it looks like we used probably around 45% of the battery to get back home again. So it looks like we're at about 35%. So plenty if I want to drive the car down to the vet tomorrow. And yeah, let me know what you think. Obviously, having Electric Era so close, I consider it a local charger, even though it's 25-30 miles away. But just a reliable workhorse charger that I can count on if I need to make a longer trip and am not really able to charge up fully at home. First chance to use Kempower chargers. And I mean, do they live up to the hype? I would say maybe had I used them 3-4 years ago when everybody was really pushing them, I'd say yeah, probably. Now we just have so many really good options and so many CPOs that are really upping their game and improving to the point that for me as a Bolt EV owner, there's no huge advantage over it. I do like the fact that it splits power at a cabinet level. Like I said, the only other ones currently doing that is basically Tesla, and like I said, ChargePoint could in theory. We just haven't seen anything from them in practice with their ChargePoint Express Plus using like their power block to split power. So it's kind of a unique offering. It gives the Briar Patch Co-op their 10 DC fast charging bays between 2 CPE 250s and then the 8 satellites. So I mean, there's a lot to like about it. And again, you're at a grocery store. I barely had time, right, to grab a snack and eat it and use the bathroom and walk the dog and check out the site. And even in the Bolt EV, I went from basically 10% to 80% in the time that I was there. So faster charging EVs, it's almost even overkill. And there were fewer EVs there this time than the last time when I visited. Last time when I visited, there were actually queues a couple of times where there were no spots available for the EVs that wanted to charge. Here, I think 2 other EVs were charging while I was there at most. And so out of 10 bays, that's a 30% usage. So they have plenty of capacity there to take on more. And we weren't able to do some of the other things that I wanted to do during this Boltmas trip. So the EVgo chargers in Yuba City did look like they were up, but I didn't have a chance to go visit them. And of course, we didn't get to pick up a Christmas tree. So that will probably need to happen on another Boltmas video, which there will be more Boltmas trips coming. So as always, thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, comments. They're appreciated. And I'm going to try to keep these videos shorter, but still include some of the driving and some of the scenery as we go through. So As always, Merry Boltmas, and thank you for watching.